Before I moved into my van, I had a whole apartment full of things. Closets, cupboards, drawers, things I had collected over many years. And when I decided to live in a van, I realized something very quickly. Most of my belongings couldn't come with me. Downsizing my entire life turned out to be one of the biggest steps in starting van life. And today I want to share with you what the process really was like. Hi, I'm Catherine, and this is Sharing My Van Life. First thing, part 1, realizing how much stuff I had. When I first started going through my things, I was honestly surprised at how much I owned. I had always lived fairly small and minimal, but I still had a lot more than I could take into my van. You don't always realize or notice when you're living in a house, but once you start opening closets and cupboards and start packing, it becomes very clear. And it can be a bit daunting. There were things I hadn't used in years, duplicates of things, and a lot of items that were just sitting there taking up space. I knew I wanted to live in my van full time, so I had to make some serious decisions. Part 2, the hardest part of downsizing. I had to start room by room. Some things were easy to let go of. Some were not so much. Once I bought my van, I had a couple months to go through everything before I moved into it. First thing I did was itemize things that I wore on a regular basis. My closet was the biggest thing to go through. I turned all my hangers backwards, and then when I pulled out something to wear, I would put it back with the hanger normal way. This enabled me to look into my wardrobe or my closet and see what I actually did wear the last month. And then I started letting go of things that I didn't ever or even had a desire to wear. I did this over 2 months. I did a similar thing in my kitchen. When I used an item, I would make a note of it or put it into a box. And the things that I did not use over those 2 months, I either sold or gave away. I let go of a lot of kitchen gadgets. There were also things that were much harder to part with. Sentimental items, expensive furniture, artwork, things connected to my memories. When you start downsizing your life, you realize that belongings often carry stories with them. So how do you let them go? And sometimes letting go of these items can be very emotional. I did keep 8 bins of things that I wanted to keep, along with some artwork. I was able to put them in storage at my family farm at no cost, so that was beneficial. Then once a year I've gone through these items and have had let more go. After living in my van for nearly 5 years, I can see that people may not live this lifestyle forever. So be careful when you are downsizing. Ultimately, you don't necessarily have to give everything away, especially if it's valuable to you. If you can afford to put it in storage and reevaluate every year. That way you can let go of things slowly versus with all the excitement of moving into a van and starting a new lifestyle. Because if you choose to let go of the van lifestyle, it can be financially unavailable for a lot of people to go back. So just be careful when you are downsizing. Part 3, deciding what I was going to keep. Living in the van means very limited space. So I had to think carefully about what was truly important. I focused on keeping the things I actually used regularly. clothing that worked for my travels. A few kitchen items, very basic stuff. 2 plates, eating utensils, chopping knife, paring knife, 2 pots, a strainer, spatula, a kettle, my AeroPress coffee maker, and a travel mug, and a water mug. Those were basically my kitchen items. With important documents, I digitized everything, and so I have accessed them through my computer. I did leave paper copies of some important papers in my storage. And I no longer get any physical mail. I moved everything. I totally downsized all my personal care products to the basics that I use daily. So I only have a few personal care products. I did keep a few personal things like books, especially travel ones, but I noticed I haven't really used them that much in the last few years, so I will probably downsize those again. Everything else had to go. Some things I sold, some things I donated, and some things I gave away. I must admit I did take too many clothes in the beginning and have reevaluated and have downsized every season since. So down to only a few items that I use on a regular basis. And I change season to season because I do have seasonal living in my van. Part 4, what surprised me the most? Once the downsizing was finished and I moved into my van, something surprising happened. I didn't miss most of the things I'd gotten rid of. I don't even remember most of the things that I had, especially clothing. In fact, life actually felt simpler. There was less to organize, less to clean, less to manage, and that simplicity brought a feeling of freedom. What downsizing taught me. Downsizing taught me something important. We often think we need a lot more than we actually do. When you live in a really small space like a van or an RV, you start to appreciate the basics, things that you use every day. And you realize that experiences and the freedom can matter more than owning a lot of items or things. Downsizing my life to move into a van wasn't always easy. There were moments when it felt overwhelming and emotional. So my advice is to take it slow if you need to. Put things in storage if that works for you, and reevaluate after a year or so. There is no perfect way to downsize. Do it the way that you need to do it for you. But looking back now, it was one of the most freeing decisions I've ever made. Living with less has helped me focus more on what truly matters in my life. I've also done an article in my blog, sharingmyvanlife.com, about downsizing, so I'll link it below. If you've ever thought about downsizing your life or living with less, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoy honest conversations about van life, make sure you subscribe for more videos. Thanks for being here with me, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.